Hi there, thanks for joining me. I'm Nick Moles, I'm the Head of Marketing at Wren Sterling. I'm here today with Phil Jenkins, Chartered Financial Planner, and Paul Mitchell, who is a Director in our corporate team. Afternoon, guys.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
So we're going to go through some of the key points from the budget and importantly, what they mean for our clients. I think it's fair to say there was more speculation than usual around this year's budget, given the situation we're in. It's record borrowing, a vaccine programme that's making progress, but still large parts of our economy locked down. And the situation the UK finds itself in was probably foremost in the Chancellor's mind, as he appears to have left some of the more structural decisions that he might have taken for another day. However, there are implications from the budget for our clients. So let's get started. And Phil, I'll come to you first. One of the big announcements was the fact that the lifetime allowance won't be going up with inflation as it has in the past. Can you summarise the impact that might have on retirement plans?
Sure. Well, I think from a personal taxation and a financial planning perspective, not only in the freezing the lifetime allowance, the IHT thresholds and CTT annual exemptions until 26, they were pretty much the notable changes. What we can see from the impact of freezing the lifetime allowance is that more prospective pensioners will be added into or being caught by the lifetime allowance. So as a quick refresher, the lifetime allowance will be dependent on what type of pension benefits that you have. So if you're on a final salary scheme, then that will be attributed at a factor of times 20. And if you're in a money purchase pension, it will be the value of your pensions. So it can be seen that successful investment strategies and managing that money well will just create an additional problem. Now, there are ways that we can work with clients and help them plan around this. So again, the impact, if you have benefits above the lifetime allowance, there are two additional tax charges. So one, if you take it out as withdrawal as capital, so that's taking the excess above, and that's taxed at 55%. And if you withdraw that, i.e. you put that money as an income, for example, something like drawdown, then you pay an additional tax charge of 25%. The other consequence of this is that the amount of tax-free cash available is 25% of the overall lifetime allowance. So again, by freezing this, there's going to be potentially lower amounts for individuals over the next 5 years. It could also be said that you're going to be bringing in or have a more negative impact on the younger generations, because it tends to be that the older generations might have access to final salary schemes. And certainly they may be at the point where they've been able to secure some form of protection scheme against some of the changes that have happened previously or the previous reductions of the lifetime allowance.
Okay, thanks. So on the income tax band freezes that were announced, how do you see that affecting your clients over the next few years?
So when we talk about income tax, the concept, I think the mention is something called fiscal drag. So that is just bringing more people into paying higher rate tax. It's also going to have a negative consequence on lower earners as well, because if they're freezing the personal allowance from next year, potentially more and more people are going to be subject to paying income tax. How we kind of see this is going to be a bit of an issue is that for somebody that's potentially taking their retirement benefits, again using the concept of the kind of drawdown, potentially there's going to be additional tax they're going to need to pay if they're maintaining the same levels of withdrawals. But one of the big advantages of working with an advisor and looking at the drawdown concept is that ability to tax plan, and we'll be able to help clients over the next couple of years to really come up with the most appropriate strategies there.
So Phil, there was no change to capital gains tax or IHT despite much sort of speculation. What did you think of that?
I actually thought that because of where we are at the moment, it would have been quite a tough call to actually put up capital gains tax at this point. However, with the consultation that's been announced from the 23rd of March, it's kind of signposting that we are expecting that there will need to be some quite radical changes to capital gains tax going in the future. We've actually seen one that's already come in for our business owners, with the impact and reduction in entrepreneur relief from 10 million to 1 million. I suppose the positives is that there was some talk about the exemptions being halved, but the good news about that's going to continue at 12,300. Although potentially we can anticipate that we do have tax rises coming. So certainly for our business and property investors on unrealised gains, they may well face a greater bill to come in the future. So what I would say from now is that that's maybe something that you might want to think about to dovetail in with your financial planning, if there are certain things that you may think that you want to consider disposing of, be it a property or taking gains on unrealised assets.
Okay, so nothing to do right now, but keep an eye on it and keep talking to your financial advisor. Okay, thanks. So Paul, I'll come to you next. When you saw the budget yesterday, what were your sort of initial thoughts?
Thanks, Nick. Clearly, the Chancellor's got a very tough job in his hands, because he's trying to, on one hand, trying to kickstart the economy that has stalled, obviously, over the last 12 months. But at the same time, trying to pay back the amount of debt that's amassed again over the last year because of the pandemic. And basically what he's done is given notice to UK PLC that in 2 years' time, they're going to be hiking the corporation tax rates. And therefore, UK PLC has now got 2 years to basically get back to some sort of trading levels which are as close as possible to pre-pandemic levels. Yeah.
Okay, so can you summarise what's happened now, what the short-term measures are for businesses?
Sure, and these measures, I'm sure, will be very welcome by the businesses that have suffered quite greatly over the last 12 months or so. Some of these were actually leaked prior to the budget. So extending the furlough scheme to the end of September of this year, which gives employees and employers peace of mind that they can at least retain staff until hopefully at a time that they can get trading levels back up. Continuing the support to those businesses that have really been badly hit by the lockdown through the restart grants and the bounce back loans as well. And a welcome boost to the hospitality sector because they're still going to enjoy a lower VAT rate at 5%. And in fact, the full rate at 20% is not going to return to them until April next year, with a 12.5% interim rate coming in between October and March. So hopefully that's going to encourage and entice more customers through the doors of the pubs and the restaurants, which, let's face it, really badly need customers coming through their doors. And then obviously extending the business rates holiday until the end of June, again, something that was leaked prior to the budget. It's not a surprise, but at the same time, it's very welcome news for businesses, without a shadow of a doubt. And obviously all of these go some way to actually help businesses get back on their feet, which, let's face it, is probably going to be, the worst trade in history and, for a very long time.
Yeah. I guess there were a couple of items that did make headlines on the corporate side. The super deduction on corporation tax and the launch of the Free Ports initiative. Do you want to expand on those?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, Nick, these are two items which no one could foresee. There were no leaks on them as well. Now, although both the political and business juries are out on Free Ports, time will tell to see whether or not they're going to be a success or not. But on the super deductor tax relief, I've personally spoken to a few clients already today that can take advantage of this and are seriously considering doing so as well. Over the last few years, businesses have faced a very uncertain future, first of all to do with Brexit, and then obviously the pandemic. So naturally, they're very reticent to see whether or not they should be investing within the business and spending money. So, if they're ever going to do it, now will be the time to actually do it because of this very attractive tax relief element.
Okay. And I guess if we consider the last sort of 12 months and everything that's happened, how do you think your clients are going to need sort of your support in the coming 12 months?
Sure, absolutely. I think in two ways, really. The first is what Phil has been speaking about around the fiscal drag, i.e. more and more employees being dragged into either basic or higher rate, or maybe even additional rate tax bands without their knowing. So it's really important that businesses start to, I suppose, educate their employees around the impact that these additional tax burdens are going to have, and possibly be able to provide guidance and obviously education around how they can mitigate some of those tax rises. And then in what we've seen over the last 12 months is that more and more employers are now looking and taking very serious consideration of the well-being of their employees. And that's really, really good to see. Now, well-being is not just, putting a service in or a product in and hope that the employees take advantage of it. It's actually trying to establish a culture within the business so that the business really clearly shows that it's caring for its employees. So, we're speaking to lots and lots of employers now about helping them actually engineer these types of better and more positive cultures within their businesses.
Okay. Fantastic, guys. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.